Ryan Pineda has built multiple 8-figure companies on the back of social content. This is a clip from episode 46 where he breaks down the framework he uses to make sure that his content pops without sounding too salesy. For the full episode, check out our YouTube channel to learn the rest of his system. How you think about putting out content, what the structure is for it, and the framework?
I'll say that the general strategy of content is this. For me, I want to be, as known as humanly possible and get, like, people should recognize me, whether they know my name or not. They're like, dude, I've seen that guy before, right? Like, that's the first step, is if you can become recognizable, then that's step one. Step two is, okay, now people need to start understanding what I'm all about, right? So if people consume my content, then they know, okay, Ryan's in real estate. He's got a family. He's, got this going on. He's got good content. He's always teaching people different ways to think about money and time and business and, lifestyle and all that stuff, right? So they start to understand who I am and what I talk about. The third thing is they now start to become bought in with, what it is I offer in my companies, right? Like I want to give them free value and all this stuff with my content, but if you never give them a sales pitch or a call to action, what's the point? You're not even helping them. Like they're just becoming observers versus actual clients that you can help, right? Because I know I can help you way more the moment you join one of my companies versus you just passively watching my stuff. And so you got to mix in your call to actions when appropriate. And for me, the way that we do call to actions across all the platforms varies, So if I'm on a YouTube video, sometimes I might just casually mention it like, hey, you like what we're talking about, go to futureflipper.com, go check it out. We'll help you invest in real estate. Cool. Maybe if I'm talking about an apartment we bought, I'm like, hey, you want to invest with us on this next deal? Go to pinedacapital.com. Boom. No hard pitches in content. It's all very soft. And it's always after a ton of value. It's never like a normal ad that you would see like, hey, Pineda Capital is the best fund you could ever get into. Here's why. That's not valuable. That's an ad. So what most people fail at with content is they go ad and they don't give value. And so I always just do all value, soft pitch if they want it. That's every piece of content. And so like with the...
Is that every piece? Or do you have a ratio of, hey, X amount of the time I'm going to put a CTA into it?
Yeah. So it's definitely not every piece of content. So yeah, with YouTube videos, only if it's applicable to what it is I'm talking about. If there's something relevant happening, I will definitely plug it. And, on the Instagram side, as of today, we release 6 reels a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Damn.
So 4 of them are pure value based. There's no call to action. It's just game. And then the other 2 are, 98% value based throughout the whole video with a small call to action at the end.
That's going to a landing page of some sort?
Yeah, it's just basically saying, hey, DM me the word flip. They DM me the word flip and now goes through an automation. It sends them a landing page with a VSL. Hey, watch the VSL. Great. You like it. Apply. They get on a sales call.
Are you using a tool to do the DM management or you have?
Yeah, we use ManyChat.
Oh, do you? Okay. How do you structure what you're going to put out for content? Do you have a library of things that you're growing all the time and thinking, hey, conceptually, these are the videos I'm shooting? Did somebody else do it? That's a lot of content.
Yeah, I have an entire content team. I think I've said this before. I spend around $40,000 a month on my own personal content, not my company's. And, that returns the best return I can do. And, everybody's in a different department. We got the YouTube, the TikTok, the poster, the producer, the videographer, the podcast switcher, the podcast editor, the TikTok editor. We got all these guys. So yeah, everybody knows their role. They're posting. My job, most of the stuff we create is all new original content. Our ads are repeated until they stop working, but the actual content itself, every week you're going to see 5 videos on YouTube that you've never seen before. You're going to see new podcast interviews you've never seen before. You're going to then get all the repurposed clips of those on Instagram and TikTok of me chopping up the best highlights from these conversations, So we do a ton of repurposing that allows us to really amplify the content.
Mm-hmm. But how do you think about the original concepts? Like, do you have, because there are many of certainly the framework of many videos is sort of, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong, or here are the top 3 things, or so on and yada, yada, right? So you've got kind of these initial hooks that might work.
Yep.
But then it's, what are the topics that you're trying to cover? How do you structure that?
Well, it depends on the form of content. So for me, I'm everywhere with all my content. So you could watch me long form like this. It's going to be an hour long plus. You could watch me on YouTube for a 10 to 20 minute video, or you can watch me on Instagram, TikTok, which is going to be 30 seconds to a minute, right? So you can consume my stuff anywhere and everywhere depending on how deep you want to go, right? So I think they all vary in how they're thought about and structured. In a podcast, starting from the longest, most of the time I'm interviewing a guest. There's no real agenda other than, hey, like, let's pull out the nuggets out of this guest and have a good conversation. With YouTube videos, that was one where there was a lot of prep and brainstorming the first couple of years I did YouTube. I did a lot of videos where I spent a lot of time scripting and saying, okay, this video I'm going to talk about how to find a real estate deal. This video I'm going to talk about how to raise money. This video I'm going to talk about how to hire somebody, right? And so I hit my bullet points and, make a 10-minute video in depth on that subject. And that got me really well, but eventually I realized I don't really necessarily like doing this anymore. And I got better uses of my time now that my social media is bigger. I don't need to like grow it so hard. It'll organically grow now at this point. So I just started vlogging. So now, my guy vlogs me like Gary Vee, and that gives us 2 videos a week. And I literally don't have to do anything. He's just vlogging me. And they're good enough to figure out, hey, that was a good piece. That was a good piece. And they make these 10-minute vlogs that are sick. So that gives me 2 videos now. Then we just started repurposing the podcast into like, Joe Rogan clips style, where it's like, hey, this is the best 10 minutes from my podcast with Brad. And so we throw those clips on my channel. And then that basically leads that I only need to film 1 video a week. And so I make 1 intentional video, and it's usually something has no script. I might go to a house flip and I'm just walking around the house. I might go to somebody's business, go have them tell me about their business. It's very experiential. I don't do very many, all right, here's what I'm teaching you, blah, blah, blah anymore. I've stopped doing that because it's not something I enjoy doing, because it requires scripting. It's boring. I have to like just talk to a camera by myself.
Right.
I did that and it got to me where I'm at. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. So on the YouTube side of things, I don't really have to think of topics. Like, they're just coming naturally from what happens by being me. And on the podcast, or I already said the podcast, and then it takes you to the reels and the shorts and stuff. And that's the most popular content that exists today. And so that should be, in my opinion, everyone's focus, because that's how you get viral and a ton of views. Between those, I get over 1 million views a day on all my stuff, and majority is short form. Okay. So for me, majority of that content is repurposed from this, the podcast, from my YouTube videos, other stuff. So I don't have to do any work there.
Yeah.
They're just taking the best clips, and they're so good at identifying that was such a good piece of content. Let me make it into a reel. And then once a month, I will film direct response, reels, where I'll sit down for about 4 or 5 hours. I'll knock out 30 of them. And, they're right here on this white wall that we've got over here. And, basically I have a team that feeds me like, not the ideas, but just like just the question. They'll be like, Ryan, how would somebody go make, $5,000 this month if they had no money? And then I'll just be like, all right, well, and I come up with the answer. There's nothing scripted. And then he'll just give me a bunch of questions that maybe they see in the comments that they're even wondering themselves, and just pull it out of me. So I don't do any scripting anymore, really.
Fun. That seems like the fun way to do it.
It's the easier way to, as long as you're talented enough to do it though.
Right. Of course. And you actually have the experience.
Yeah.
Because to give valuable information.
Right. Because I know a lot of YouTubers who are millions and millions of subs and followers. They cannot do it. They're just not built to freestyle. They have to script and think and plan.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I think that there are 2 distinct personality types. Some that can shoot from the hip, specifically on camera or on stage.
Yep.
And others
that have to do everything scripted.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think one is better than the other. In fact, I tend to think that the heavily scripted, rehearsed, performed land better. That's why every movie, stand-up, everything gets scripted, and they practice the shit out of it. But it takes a hell of a lot of time to get that incremental gain.
Well, and man, you know, it's like, is that going to be the preferred style going forward? Because you already see movies on the decline. You see long form videos on the decline. You're seeing that people don't want highly produced things now. People prefer raw interactions, the truth, and they're resonating more with rawness than they are with a perfectly scripted thing. And so that may have been the status quo, you know, for decades, but I actually think that the rawness will outperform all of that because you can relate to it.
Interesting. Okay, cool, man. I love it.